What is up, Dynasty Leaguers? It's Tuesday. It's draft season at the end of April with the NFL draft here in just a couple days. So this is going to be the final rookie mock draft that we are doing pre-draft without knowing landing spots. And I am super pumped that this is going to be the last one because we're finally going to have that last little bit of context on these players with landing spots after this week. But as for right now, let's just dive in because we're going to do a one quarterback mock draft from the 1.09 spot. I think for any of you guys out there in one quarterback leagues, if you have later firsts, you're kind of wondering what you're going to be doing with them because the top end is basically known. You have the top players at the top and the back end is just kind of a bunch of wide receivers. Do you maybe take Malik Willis because he's the top quarterback at the back end of the first? There's a lot of questions to be had at the back end in one quarterback leagues. So that's why I decided to go with that in today's video. So let's move over here. We're doing it from the 1.09 spot. And I think we should just get things started here. So you can see the first 8 picks that have gone off the board here. And like I said, Malik Willis here at the 1.07 could be something that you guys actually see in your one quarterback leagues. If a lot of these guys in the back end of the first don't really like any of these wide receivers, they just say screw it and they just take the best quarterback on the board, and that would be Malik Willis in this. So at the 1.09 here, we have some decisions. Like I said, it's a lot of wide receivers here at the back end with probably most likely all 3 running backs going at the top of the draft in whatever order that is. Maybe you end up taking Isaiah Spiller here, depending on how he actually fares and where he actually goes and when in the NFL draft. But we're just going to assume that the top 3 running backs are all gone. And for the most part, the top 3 or 4 wide receivers are also gone as well. So who do you pick in this instance? Because you have George Pickens, who has a really high upside, and he's been linked to the Green Bay Packers pretty recently, so that would be fantastic. You have Chris Olave, who is a fantastic producer at Ohio State. You have David Bell, who I really like, but the draft process hasn't been all too kind for. Might be a little bit of a reach for him based on ADP here. You also have Jahan Dotson, one of my favorite guys, obviously Penn State, who has massive upside as like a Tyler Lockett or early career Deshaun Jackson type, and has been linked to the Kansas City Chiefs as kind of a more replacement to Tyreek Hill. So you have a lot of decisions here. But for me, just because this is pre-draft and just based on my board, Chris Olave is my wide receiver 4 in this class. So I'm getting him at a little bit of a discount here as the wide receiver 5 in this rookie mock. I just really overall just like Chris Olave. He was a fantastic producer at Ohio State. I know that he's a 4-year player. We necessarily don't really like that. But all things considered, I mean, there really isn't all that big of a difference in his analytical profile compared to his teammate Garrett Wilson, who we are viewing as a consensus top 3 wide receiver in this class, if not wide receiver 1 for a lot of people, went 1.03 in this mock. So with that difference being kind of minimal, I really love the opportunity to take the discount on Chris Olave here as a half a round difference from his teammate Garrett Wilson. And I think a lot of you out there are really going to benefit from that type of a discount as well, although that discount might not be there if he actually does land with the Green Bay Packers or the Kansas City Chiefs, as a lot of people kind of expect in that second half of the first round. So we're up again at the 2.09, and this is just a really hard spot for one quarterback leagues because the drop off in talent in one quarterback leagues is probably right around here at the 2.03 the 2.04, because then you start getting into a lot of day 3 guys in both running backs and wide receivers. You get into the quarterbacks, probably some of the tight ends as well. It's just a really awkward spot, and my advice this whole entire time has been similar to what it was last year, where if you're in this back end of the second, try to get back up into the top half of the second round, or even kick the can down to 2023 in hopefully a better class with a little bit more depth. But you'd be able to at least get somebody with better talent rather than being in this large tier of a bunch of day 3 players, that the difference between somebody that you take here at 2.09 and somebody that you take at 3.09 might not be all that different. But here at the 2.09, I mean, there's a glaringly obvious player that we should take here just based on the draft capital that he is expected to get, either as a back end of the first or even a second round pick at the wide receiver position, which is Christian Watson. I don't really like Christian Watson. I have a problem with a lot of the red flags that I see in his prospect profile. But at the same time, at the 2.09, if he does get first or second round draft capital, and that's a signal I can't really ignore at the wide receiver position at this point in the rookie draft. And that's something that, we saw with Kadarius Toney. We saw with other guys like Brandon Ayuk just fall, even though they had really good draft capital. They're just not seen as good of prospects, so they fall. making them values in rookie drafts. And I don't expect Christian Watson to actually be here at the 2.09, but I think this is just a point where I have to kind of throw out what I don't like about Christian Watson, look at the draft capital, look at the opportunity that he should get based on that draft capital, and just hope and pray that something actually ends up going well for Christian Watson, and maybe he hits his ceiling that a lot of other people see that I don't necessarily see. But overall, that's a smart move to go there at the 2.09. If I didn't go with Christian Watson, I probably would have went with James Cook as an early day 3 or even a late day 2 running back. He's got the receiving upside, so in PPR leagues, that's absolutely fantastic, and that is something that is going to help vault him into being a good and consistent fantasy producer than a lot of the other guys who are more first and second down workload, and they need an injury to actually be able to play and get on the field. That might not necessarily be the case with James Cook, who can come in and be more of a third down guy or third down plus kind of guy, like a Kareem Hunt in that situation, which would be really valuable at the 2.09. So here at the 3.09, I mean, you guys already know at this point, do I really even need to say anything else about Khalil Shakir out of Boise State? I absolutely love his profile. I love the opportunity that he might get based on potentially second round draft capital, if not really solid third round draft capital. Maybe he ends up in a situation like the Chicago Bears or the Indianapolis Colts in that third round. That would be absolutely fantastic. It would be a situation kind of like what we saw last year with Amon-Ra St. Brown, who from a prospect profile stance slid a little bit in the NFL draft because the NFL favored more of these speed guys that I didn't necessarily think deserved that kind of draft capital. So Amon-Ra just kind of fell through the cracks and then ended up in a really good situation on the Detroit Lions, kind of devoid of talent. And now, you know, the rest is history, and we know where he is right now in terms of dynasty value and potential production opportunity. That could be something that we see from Khalil Shakir on the Chicago Bears or on the Indianapolis Colts. Even if it comes with a little bit later of draft capital, you're still getting that at the 3.09, and I absolutely love everything about Khalil Shakir, and that's just like auto third round pick, basically almost anywhere in the third round in both Superflex or one quarterback leagues. Next up at the 4.09, this computer is getting smarter because it's already taken Keontae Ingram. It's also already taken Tyler Beatty. It's taken Kevin Harris at the 3.05. Those are basically the top 3 guys that I'm looking for in this third, fourth round range when I'm not taking Khalil Shakir. Guys that I'm going to be watching on draft day to see where they actually land and when, if they could be in good situations, kind of like Elijah Mitchell last year, who has the opportunity to ascend up a depth chart fairly easily, either through talent or through injuries or some combination of both. I think I am going to take Greg Dulcich here because I don't really have a whole lot for tight ends, but what I'm looking for is draft capital and athleticism, and Dulcich absolutely has the athleticism, and I'm hoping, and at least from recent mock drafts that I'm seeing, he should get the draft capital as well as potentially a day 2 pick. Like I said, the second tight end off the board after Trey McBride, just because of the pure upside that teams might see in his athletic profile. I'll take that shot here at the 4.09, even though I'm kind of sad that I missed out on other running backs that I really, really like Tyler Beatty and Keontae Ingram. Kevin Harris went in the 3.05, so that's amazing to see, honestly. So that is where I stand at the 4.09. And the reason why I also took Greg Dulcich there is because I could then talk about this player at the 5.09. And if I scroll down far enough down here, we should be able to find him. There he is, Max Borghi out of Washington State. And I really haven't had the chance to talk about Max Borghi just because he's just valued this far down. I don't really have the opportunity to talk about players that are valued this low in rookie drafts, but I finished out all of the gradings for my rookie running backs in terms of their markers. I was able to fully integrate a bunch of pro days after some of the stuff from the last couple of weeks. And Max Borghi is actually coming out hitting on 5 out of 8 markers. So he's right up there with guys like Kevin Harris, like Rachaad White, like Jerome Ford, a bunch of these guys that I really like in that third and fourth round range that I'm trying to target in those ranges. And here Max Borghi is down at the 5.09. I know he's not fantastic. He's not really super fast. He ran like a mid 4.5 at the pro day. He's not really all that big either. But what he did do was he had 86 receptions as his best reception season. Back in 2019, he had a great 2021 season as well. Even though he really didn't get a whole lot of opportunities with only 160 attempts, he had 880 yards on those attempts, double-digit touchdowns, and he was absolutely really fantastic just overall for Washington State as a running back for the 4 years that he played at that school, minus the 2020 season that he had, missing some games with the back injury as well as the whole COVID situation. But Max Borghi, I mean, he might not even be drafted, But if he does, he's probably going to be like a 6th or 7th round type of guy. But I just really want to take the opportunity to just see what Max Borghi is, see what he could become in the NFL, because if he is utilized as a strictly third down back, I mean, we could be talking about a guy who maybe has the upside of like Nyheim Hines or Tariq Cohen a couple years ago. Maybe on the ultimate side, like a James White or Giovanni Bernard. I know that doesn't sound fantastic, but at the 5.09, that's not terrible. And like I said, I mean, even if he doesn't get drafted, I might not take him. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. But it's a 5.09. What are you going to do with anything better with that pick than a potential shot on a player like Max Borghi? So that's why I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk about him, because he did come in grading pretty well in my marker system with the production profile that he has coming out of college at Washington State. So that's going to conclude my final rookie mock draft done before the NFL draft. Like I said, I'm super excited for this week to actually have landing spots after this, and we're going to do a whole bunch of mock drafts to help you guys out after the NFL draft, where I'm actually going to be taking your guys' rosters, your guys' draft picks in your rookie drafts, and draft as if I were you guys in that situation. So that was super helpful for a lot of people last year. I'm very excited to be able to be doing that again this year. So once the NFL draft is done, I'll put out a call to everybody out there to give me your teams and your draft picks that you want me to try to analyze in a video like this, as if I was drafting for you guys. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel to potentially be in one of my videos like that, where I'm drafting as if I were you. Leave a like on this video, leave a comment down below if you agree or disagree with any of my picks in this mock draft. And with that all being said, guys, thank you all so much for watching. We'll catch y'all later.